Bittensor has been one of the top performing cryptocurrencies in the last week. It seems like it's AI token season again. The question is, does it make sense to jump on this recovery now? The market is still relatively low and there might be some upside. Let's have a look at some data points most people are not considering. So here's the current situation. We are currently at $320 per Bittensor or TAO token. We are up more than 30% in the last week. And with that, Bittensor is the second best performing token among the top 100 largest cryptocurrencies. Today is quite green, and again, it's the AI tokens that are outperforming. Fetch AI is rallying as well. Now, the only reason to buy any altcoin is to get better performance compared to the less risky Bitcoin, right? You want to get outperformance by taking on more risk. Why else taking on all of that volatility, right? It needs to be risk adjusted, better performance. And so because of that, I like to look at relative valuation charts, because when Bitcoin goes up, then of course a lot of altcoins go up as well, and vice versa. There's a lot of correlation within crypto. We need to see outperformance long term. Now what we've got over here is the TAO token, so Bittensor relative to Bitcoin. The chart starts in April 2024, though this is 1 year of data. And unfortunately, Bittensor did not do better than Bitcoin during that time, an underperformance of 60%. Here is Bittensor relative to Ethereum. Here the situation looks a bit better. What I find fascinating is the magnitude of the volatility. So from bottom to top, we've got outperformance of almost 300%. From top to bottom, underperformance of 60% roughly. Here is Bittensor relative to Solana. Again, not necessarily outperformance. So it seems like in the last year, where Bitcoin tended to trend upwards, Bittensor did not take advantage of that positive environment. Yes, today is good, but in net aggregate, the additional risk did not result in outsized performance. Now, I believe there are two major ways to make money in crypto. Either we buy the dip of projects that we are long-term bullish on. It's a somewhat risky strategy because most altcoins tend to underperform Bitcoin most of the time. The alternative way to make money is to just try to follow the general macro environment. So when prices tend to go up, we buy the dips, but when prices tend to go down, we short the pumps. So we bet on falling altcoins whenever we see a rising price. Now, I think the current macro is rather bearish. So when we look at the others' dominance, so how much of all of crypto is in the altcoins that are not in the top 10, and Bittensor is one of those tokens, we're seeing that the altcoins tend to do rather poorly. This started at the beginning of 2022, continues today, and even the long-term adoption trend has recently been broken. So the smaller altcoins as a whole did worse than Bitcoin or Solana or Ethereum in the last year, an underperformance of 40%, which by the way is still less compared to what Bittensor performed to BTC. The picture in the last month is similar. Bitcoin did perform positively slightly, and yes, there are some altcoins that outperformed, but the vast majority of altcoins actually returned negatively. Not TAO, but in general, the market as a whole didn't perform that well. And this is something that seems to be a consistent pattern. Returns seem to be concentrated among a few winners, and even the winners change over time. One of the major points why I'm still bearish on crypto as a whole is Bitcoin being below the 120-day simple moving average. So when we look at the entirety of Bitcoin's history, and we want to buy whenever momentum is positive, so when the price is above the moving average, and we want to sell whenever we are below the moving average, when the macro is rather bearish, when we take that approach, then the 120-day simple moving average is the best. And we did see a lot of volatility in the past, right? This was the Terra Luna collapse and the FTX collapse and Three Arrows Capital, etc. That caused Bitcoin to drop by 76%. And if we see something similar again, there is way more potential downside. So even though it feels quite painful of what happened in the last weeks, it's still nothing compared to what is possible in the worst case. But let's go back to Bittensor, because it's not just a TAO token that's going up, it's also Fetch AI that's appreciating. This is an overview of the largest artificial intelligence altcoins. And I'm not sure if it's fair to include NEAR and ICP into this list. This is from CoinGecko, by the way, because those are dedicated layer 1 blockchains and they've got all kinds of components that are impacting the price. But Render and Fetch AI are definitely pretty clear AI plays. And so let's have a look at TAO relative to Render. There is a lot of volatility from bottom to top, a 300% rally, but overall it seems like the two assets tend to move in similar directions at the same time. There seems to be a trading range and TAO is somewhat in the middle of that trading range. It's not very expensive, it's not very cheap. Here we've got Bittensor relative to Fetch AI. It appears as if Fetch AI underperforms long term, and that's a somewhat consistent trend. But again, within that trend, we are neither super cheap nor very expensive. Now the question is always about demand and supply, and for supply, especially tokenomics, does the supply expand over time? Because most altcoins do see an expanding supply over time. That's why we see the long-term underperformance versus Bitcoin and Ethereum. Yes, Bitcoin and Ethereum also has a rising supply. Ethereum, especially when it's not used that much, and Bitcoin does have its mining, but that supply increase is very slow. Most altcoins have a quicker expansion of supply, and that's where the underperformance tends to come from. Here is the supply schedule of a Bittensor. Over the next 15 years or so, we will see the supply doubling again, but that's still rather modest to what we saw in the past. We started out with 500,000 TAO, now we are at 10 million, so a 20x, another 2x in 15 years is quite reasonable. The problem with the current rally is the usage of perpetual futures. So perpetual futures inherently are short-term positions because the financing costs are very high and because leverage is high as well. So usually when there's a lot of trading volume within the perps and when the price is going up, that means that this is fleeting capital that might exit the asset soon. So there was 347 million worth of trading volume on the Binance futures market alone. And that's probably pushing up the price quite a bit. And so since I'm personally rather betting on falling prices right now, I'm trying to find turnaround points. It doesn't appear to me as if Bittensor is already at the heights of those potential turnaround points. The only potential chart that gives a good short entry is maybe TAO relative to Bitcoin. Here we are high, but TAO relative to Ethereum or TAO relative to Solana or TAO relative to its competitors doesn't appear to be that elevated. So I'm personally staying away from a short, but I'm also not buying TAO simply because of my macro view on crypto right now. I don't want to be long when Bitcoin has a good chance to potentially still go down from here. That opinion might change once we close a day above $92,000 in Bitcoin, but we are still away from that. And so yeah, even though most people are currently losing in this market, our community does make money by using leverage and shorting the right altcoins. If we've got an altcoin that is pumping, that is very large in market cap as well, and that stopped the short squeeze, we can short or bet on falling prices of those altcoins quite consistently and make pretty straightforward gains. It's not a very common way to make money, but I believe we have to take the strategies that most people don't take in order to outperform, right? Most people lose money in crypto, but we as a community tend to currently make profit. Of course, not every trade is positive and those are cherry-picked by the community. But again, I don't think that many people are currently making anywhere near those returns. It's all part of Premium. There are also dedicated chats where we discuss upcoming trades. And I'm of course sharing my own trades as well. There are also various tutorial videos on how to do proper risk management, on how to not get liquidated and how to do on-chain analytics, etc. There's more than 100 tutorial videos to binge watch as well. Feel free to check it out. It's currently $125 per month. There's also a 1-week money back guarantee. So in case you don't like Premium, just message me within the first 7 days. I'll refund you 100%. There's really zero risk for you. If it's your first time here, feel free to subscribe. I publish this regularly. A like would be very much appreciated as well. Helps the channel grow. See you next time here on YouTube or see you in Premium. Cheers.